Oh yeah, another Tuesday stream. What is up, Star Wars fans? I swear if I'm frozen, let's go. Okay, so if any of you were here 15 minutes ago, the stream completely shut down. But that's, it happens. It happens to the best of us. It happens to the worst of us. You know the deal. Whatever. Today, of course, the Andor show is over, so it's not a prediction stream, but we're streaming anyway. The new time, Tuesdays at 1 p.m. We got a ton of Star Wars news to talk about, literally a ton. The last week has been this week is just going to get even crazier because on December 1st, which I think is Thursday and or Friday, how many days are in November? Do we know? Either Thursday or Friday, December 1st. There's a panel in Brazil, like a Brazil con or something, but Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau will be there because it will be a Mandalorian Season 3 panel. That means they're talking Mando Season 3. That means it's going to get insanely hype at that panel because, of course, Mando Season 3 is what we all want. It is not the very next thing. Bad Batch is first, but, whatever. Let's talk about the Andor finale. What did you guys think of the Andor finale just right off the bat? What did you guys think of it? Rank it out of 10. You know the deal. Because honestly, and I'll let you guys type real quick. Honestly, I think the Andor show as a whole, all of season 1 was good. It wasn't like the most spectacular thing ever. I don't think it was Mando season 2 level. It was definitely better than like most of the Book of Boba Fett, most of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, but there were episodes in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, like the finale, of course, and in the Book of Boba Fett, like the Mando episode in Luke training Grogu, which blow the Andor show out of the park. Like, it's not even close. But as a whole, I would say the Andor show is just a well put together show. Cinematically, it looks fantastic. Of course, the budget was there. They went to places. It wasn't just the volume the entire time like it is with the Mandalorian in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So you actually get the feeling that you're actually there. With all that being said, season 1 as a whole, I would give a ranking. Now, this is my personal opinion, but that just means it's straight facts. Is an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10. Now, that's not bad. It's not bad by any means. Nobody's saying that's bad. The Andor show was not bad. Anybody telling you that it's bad is just lying to you. They either haven't watched it or for some reason they just hate the show for no reason. It's not bad. You can't watch this show and say it's bad. You can watch the show and maybe say it's boring, but even then, you're crazy. All the action scenes, in especially this finale, how could you be bored? How could you possibly be bored? But with all that being said, an 8 out of 10. That's exactly what I would give the Andor show. I talked to people about it for a while. I just thought about it for a long, long time. An 8 out of 10 was the final answer. It's not 8.1. It's not 7.9. It's an 8 out of 10. And honestly, this finale was not even the best episode of the entire season. So with all that being said, let's talk about the finale itself. We talked about the show as a whole. Let's talk about the finale itself. The finale itself was good. Now, like I just said, it wasn't the best episode so far. I think episode 6 was better. I think episode 9 or 10, one of those two, were better. This finale was very good, though. I mean, all the stuff with Marva's funeral, I mean, come on, it was fantastic. Let's pull up some pictures here. Yes, restore those pages, please. Oh, come on, not those pages. I don't want to restore those. All the stuff with Marva's funeral was fantastic. All the stuff with Luthen was great. I mean, his creepy smirk at the end was fantastic. Mon Mothma having to set up her daughter with this weird dude from her home because she needs money is great. I mean, all right, let's talk about Marva's funeral. So Marva's funeral was awesome. B2 rolls out into the middle of the street, projects Marva up into the air, and she says, if I could do it all again, I would wake up early and I'd fight the Empire. This causes everybody to lose their sheet and attack the Empire. Now, this was Marva's final goal. She wanted to be a part of the rebellion, and she is even after she passes. And this hologram whole scene was very, very cool. Now, Mon Mothma, she didn't really have a big part in most of this show. Obviously, we know she funded the rebellion. Obviously, we know that she is a big senator in the Senate. But for the Andor show's purposes, she really didn't do much. She had 1 or 2 scenes per episode. She didn't really talk that much. The only real connection for her to Andor was that, of course, she funded Luthen, but her cousin was Vel, and Vel had many, many scenes with Cassian Andor. But in this last episode, she gives up her daughter to Davos' son, and that's what we're seeing right here. That's Mon Mothma's husband, her daughter, and of course, herself. Now, Luthen, my favorite character by far of season 1. So glad he didn't die. I actually was anticipating that he might die in the final episode. Didn't die, thank God. But he's definitely by far my favorite episode. Look at this grumpy face. How can you not love this guy? He was trying to kill Andor for like the last 7 episodes or whatever 7 episodes. And he was trying to kill Andor. Then he finds out, when Andor comes to him at the very end, that he wants back into the rebellion. And he's like, sure, yeah, I could use your help. He actually doesn't say that. He just smiles at him. And in my breakdown, if you see, I predict that he's going to kill Andor in that scene, and all of Rogue One will be retconned. Then there was a second ending. And this second ending, let's talk about it for a second. So first of all, we found out that this is what Cassian was making. These things that Cassian was making while he was in prison with the old dude, with Andy Serkis' character Kino Loy, who can't swim, with all the prisoners in there, this is what he was making. And what was this built, or what would these build for? Wait, we'll get to that later. The Death Star. Now the Death Star, where did this go? Boom, the Death Star. So obviously all the pieces that he was building, they were building thousands of them every day, were being used for this Death Star. Of course, the Death Star is gigantic, so it needs a lot of pieces to be put together. Now, Tony Gilroy has been all about being online, talking to the fans, and it's great. But he's saying that this scene is very big towards season 2 of the Andor show. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but Cassian doesn't really know all that much about the Death Star in Rogue One. And season 2 is supposed to lead into Rogue One. So does Cassian even know about the Death Star by the beginning of Rogue One? I can't remember for the life of me. But even if he does, Tony Gilroy is hinting that the Death Star is going to be a main component of season 2. Now, of course, the Death Star seemingly almost done being built in this frame right here, because we saw it in Revenge of the Sith. Let's look that up. When we see it in Revenge of the Sith, it is clearly not done. Nowhere close to being done. Right here. So we see that it's almost done. Does that mean we're going to start destroying planets very soon? I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure, again, you guys have to fact check me on this. Has the Death Star been used before Rogue One? I don't think so. So maybe, what planet is this? We got to ask ourselves that. What planet is this that the Death Star is being built over? Because we know the Death Star can move. We see it move throughout the sequel, original trilogy. So we know it moves. So where is it being built over? Obviously, word's going to get out that a giant planet-killing space station is being built, and the Rebellion is not going to like this one bit. But how is it going to be received by the rebels? Is Andor going to find out about this and be like, no thanks. I'm going to go live on Tatooine for the rest of my life, because every show needs to be involved with Tatooine. Let's give Andor a round of applause. The first show of any Star Wars show ever that hasn't gone to Tatooine. Fantastic. Let's not forget that Tatooine was the main planet for the Book of Boba Fett. Almost every episode took place on that planet. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show, of course, he is on Tatooine the entire time. Even the Mandalorian, he goes to Tatooine in the first season and in the second season. So Tatooine being the main planet of Star Wars, it is fantastic that Andor did not go to Tatooine. Honestly, it was very impressive. I Tony Gilroy, you get all of the credit in the world because not going to Tatooine is clearly a big, big accomplishment. I honestly really expect there to be all Tatooine episodes in The Bad Batch Season 2 and in The Mandalorian Season 3. Alright, here's how Mandalorian Season 3 is going to open. It's going to be Mando and Grogu walking down a street, right? And they're going to hear somebody scream from their window. Just be like, hey, did you hear that Mandalore has recently turned into Tatooine? and that's how it's going to happen. It's going to be like, Mandalore is the new Tatooine. And then the whole entire show is going to take place on Tatooine. That's pretty much how it's going to go down. Do you guys think that Boba is going to show up in The Mandalorian Season 3? Because if you think about it, the last time we saw both characters, obviously we saw Grogu and Mando jet off from Boba, but Boba was in charge of Tatooine. He's this new crime boss on Tatooine taking place of Jabba the Hutt and Bib Fortuna. So is Boba Fett going to join this fight for Mandalore? Obviously he doesn't really have any ins with the Mandalorians. He was just a clone of his dad who was a Mandalorian, but he doesn't really have any connection to the Mandalorian throne. So he probably wouldn't be too concerned about Bo-Katan and Din Djarin wanting to go get the Mandalorian throne. Am I wrong? Has Boba Fett had a complete change of heart like he did in his entire show? Do you think Boba Fett will be in The Mandalorian Season 3? Let's just put it like that. Do you think Boba Fett will be in The Mandalorian Season 3? It's still out there. I don't know. He's obviously not in the trailers or in the trailer that we've gotten. We're going to be getting another trailer. Did we know this? Another trailer is coming on Christmas Day. And honestly, one might come this week. Like I said earlier, December 1st. It's either Thursday or Friday. I don't know. December 1st, there's going to be a Comic-Con-ish panel for The Mandalorian Season 3, and John and Dave will be there giving us news on The Mandalorian Season 3. So let's get very excited for that because, with Andor being over, we got to look forward to something as Star Wars fans, and The Mandalorian Season 3 is definitely up near the top of the list just because it's coming so soon. The Bad Batch is in January, and The Mandalorian Season 3 is most likely to be that February 22nd date. There's been no confirm or deny, and maybe that's what we'll get on Thursday, Friday, December 1st. Maybe that's what we'll get this week is a release date for The Mandalorian. That would be epic. I mean, just a release date would be sick. All right, let's talk about some Star Wars news because some crazy stuff happened last week. Bob Chapek is out. CEO of Disney, cut, boom, fired. You're out of here. And Bob Iger, who was the CEO for 15 years and handpicked Bob Chapek for the role after him, is back. Bob Iger, the return of the Mac. He is back. Now, what does this mean for Star Wars? Because people are like, oh, this doesn't mean anything. This guy being fired, this guy coming back, it doesn't mean anything because it has nothing to do with the Star Wars. Yes, it has everything to do with Star Wars. Disney owns Star Wars. So Bob Iger coming back is big, big news. Obviously, George Lucas sold Star Wars to Bob Iger, not Bob Chapek. And Bob Chapek has, well, you've seen what's happened with Star Wars in the last 2 years. Because Bob Chapek has only been in charge for 2 years. That's it. This guy's been on the throne for 2 years. And it's like Game of Thrones over there at Disney where Iger's like, I'm coming back for my throne, and he came back for the throne. Now let's look at this article real quick. Why Disney CEO firing is good news for Star Wars movies. Now this article is pretty much saying how we haven't had a movie since Rise of Skywalker in 2019. That's 3 years. This December marks the 3-year anniversary since we've gotten our last Star Wars movie, which is insane. 3 years without a Star Wars movie is wild. But now that this guy's gone, Bob Chapek, CEO of Disney, there might be a big future for Star Wars theatrical releases. There is a very, very, very valid reason why this is the case. Because Bob Iger is back. And let's talk about this. Iger wants to steady things. And he says that this might actually be a good thing. We're talking about Kathleen Kennedy maybe getting fired. Bob Iger coming back might mean that Kathleen Kennedy could be fired. Now, here's what the Hollywood Reporter is saying. They're pretty much just saying that the reason we haven't gotten a Star Wars movie in 3 years is because Chapek didn't want one. He says, nah, I'm good. I'm a pass with the Star Wars movies. I don't think they'll be making us enough money, and that's why this guy's gone. This guy is literally just up and gone because of the fact, let's be real, there has been no Star Wars movies. If you watch his care with Disney Plus, Bob Iger's one last big project was Disney Plus. And what did Chapek do with it? He threw everything onto Disney Plus. Disney Plus has the most subscribers of any subscription-basis streaming platform, like Netflix, like HBO Max, like Hulu, like all of them. Disney Plus is the king, and yet it still loses money. It loses Disney money. This is insanity. It's bringing in millions of dollars every month, and yet still losing millions of dollars. And how is that possible? Because they're spending so much money on these projects, and they're not making nearly enough money back. If you think about it, if it costs $100 million to make a movie, a Star Wars movie, and you make $1 billion back, which I know those numbers are ridiculous, but if you make $1 billion back, you're making so much money. If you make a $100 million show and put it on Disney Plus, getting that money back is a whole lot more difficult. And Bob Chapek released movies straight to Disney Plus during the pandy, and that did not go over well. Many Pixar movies, and I think even Black Widow, went straight to Disney Plus, and they lost out on a ton of money. Now, you can't blame Bob Chapek for all of it. Of course, the pandy-wandy got a lot of things messed up. But his handle of Disney Plus is atrocious, and his handle of Star Wars in general was atrocious. Now, you can't blame it all on him. There is this one little lady named Kathleen Kennedy. Ever heard of her? Kathleen Kennedy. Now, I'm sure you saw her on the thumbnail, and that's why you're here today. Because it says fired over the top of Kathleen Kennedy's body. Now, why did I say that Kathleen Kennedy is likely to be fired? This is a great question because there is this huge article that talks about this. Because Kathleen Kennedy might be out by next summer. I'm not talking about 3, 4, 5 years from now. I'm talking about 6 months from now. She could be gone. Now, here's why I'm saying 6 months from now and not this very second. Now, this is just a rumor. Don't forget, this is all just a rumor. Disney plans to remove Star Wars boss Kathleen Kennedy, and it is a rumor. It's just a rumor for now. But it is a very valid rumor from very valid sources. So Star Wars, of course, was bought 10 years ago now, and Kathleen Kennedy has been in charge for 10 years. And we have to think about what she did. The sequel trilogy. Nice. The Last Jedi, completely splitting the entire fan base, and the disappointing finale in The Rise of Skywalker. Now, there have been some high points, of course, with Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and the latest show, Andor. Now, why is Kathleen leaving? Let me tell you. Next summer of 2023, June 30th, I do believe, of 2023, is Indiana Jones 5. Now, Kathleen Kennedy, this handsome lady right here, can you call ladies handsome? I don't even know. This pretty lady right here has been a producer on all Indiana Jones movies from the start. From the first ever Indiana Jones movie, she was a very major producer on that movie. So, of course, Indiana Jones is kind of her child, and having her go out with a bang in Indy 5 is kind of what they want to do. Now, if Indiana Jones flops, like hard, she might actually get fired. I think after Indiana Jones 5 comes out, she might leave under her own wishes, saying that she wants to retire, she's going to put somebody else in charge, blah-blah-blah-blah. But I think that by the time that the Indiana Jones 5 movie comes out, there's only one of two things that's happening. After it comes out, Kathleen Kennedy will step down as the CEO of Lucasfilm and replace herself with somebody else, hopefully Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni, or she'll get fired because the Indiana Jones 5 flops hard. And all of her, of course, history with Star Wars will be leading up to her firing. If you think about what she's done with Star Wars in the last 10 years with the sequel trilogy, and don't even get me started on The Last Jedi, and how she handles the fans. Think about how Kathleen Kennedy handles the fans. She is the worst. And they've actually told her to stop talking about the Star Wars movies because they aren't any. There aren't any. Think about the Patty Jenkins trailer. We got a trailer for Patty Jenkins's Rogue Squadron movie where she's rollerblading around talking about her dad and how it was like a heartfelt thing, and you were like, yes, Rogue Squadrons is going to be awesome. Patty Jenkins is going to put her heart and soul into this movie. And where is it now? It is gone. That movie is scrapped, and it's all because of y'all's favorite, Kathleen Kennedy, the GOAT herself. She has been just talking out of her mouth for a long time, and nobody wants to hear it anymore. Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that each project is being canceled. Each project everybody gets hyped up for, and it gets canceled. We just want a Star Wars movie. We just want a Star Wars movie. We don't care if it's a sequel. We don't care if it's Old Republic. We don't care if it's High Republic. We're going to go watch it anyway. We're going to go watch it. I mean, are you going to go watch any Star Wars movie that they release? Honestly, be real. You're going to go check it out at least. And if it's good, you're going to go watch it 10 more times because it's a Star Wars movie. Kathleen Kennedy, what are you doing? And the thing that she said at Star Wars Celebration this last year, somebody asked her a question about the Lando show because there's supposed to be a Lando show that we haven't heard anything about since it was announced 3 years ago. She said, ask Donald Glover. She said, ask Donald Glover because he's the guy who's in charge. He's Lando Calrissian. Go ask him. He's too busy doing something else, so we are waiting for him. No, Kathleen, you're the CEO of Lucasfilm. You have to be the one in charge here. Don't say, oh, go ask the actor who's supposed to be portraying the character. No, you're in charge. You're supposed to make the Lando show, so make the Lando show happen. Now we're talking about Star Wars movies, so let's get back on the track of Star Wars movies. You got Taika Waititi working on a Star Wars movie, which we don't know anything about. We got Kevin Feige, who claims to be making a Star Wars movie. We don't know anything about. Patty Jenkins, we just said, gone. She made this heartfelt video, gone. Then you have this new movie, this sequel movie in the works with, what's his name? Damon Lindelof. Damon Lindelof and the director of the Miss Marvel show. Miss Marvel. She did 2 episodes of Miss Marvel. Anybody watch Miss Marvel? Like, for real. Anybody on planet Earth watch Miss Marvel? No. Because it's Miss Marvel. So did she do a good job? I don't know. But even if she did, her only validation to being a good director is Miss Marvel. I just don't understand what's going on over at Lucasfilm. Does anybody know what's going on? Can we, dear Lucasfilm, please fire Kathleen Kennedy and put a potato as the role of CEO and just give everything, and I mean everything, to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Maybe Tony Gilroy. Why not? Are you guys a fan of the Andor show? Were you a fan? Honestly, season 1's gone. We don't have to hype it up anymore. Were you a fan of the entire season 1 of the Andor show? I already gave you my ranking. Don't forget to put your ranking in the comments. I gave it an 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10, which is good, which is really good. But do you want to see more of Tony Gilroy? Do you want to see more of that type of Star Wars thing? Or do you want to see more of the Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni stuff? Who do you want to see go in charge of Lucasfilm if Kathleen is a goner? Who do you want to see go in charge? Because Dave Filoni, let me tell you, we don't want him there. We don't want him in charge. We don't want him in that role at all. And you might be saying, what the heck? Dave Filoni makes everything good. What are you talking about? We don't want him in charge. We want him working on the projects. We want him doing The Mandalorian, doing Ahsoka Tano's show, because we want him directing it. We want him writing it. We want him there in charge. We don't want him up here yelling down to everybody at the same time with too much to worry about. We want him on the stage, on the set, working on everything. Because that's Dave Filoni's thing. That's his thing. That's his spiel. That's his whatever. I got one more very big article for you guys. One more huge one. Let me pull it up. Now this one is crazy. When we just talked about this, and we're going to talk about it some more. Disney, Star Wars. All 18 fired and replaced directors in the Disney era. Let me repeat that. The Disney era has been 10 years. George Lucas sold Star Wars to Disney in 2012. In 10 years, 18 18. One more than 17. Directors have been replaced or fired at Disney. Yeah. So let's talk about this. Since, 2012. 2012. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy announced there would be a hiatus from featured films after 2019's The Rise of Skywalker. A hiatus, sure. How long's a hiatus take? At least 6 years, because it's been 3, and we're not getting a Star Wars movie for at least 3. Now, of course, the Pandy Wandy pushed all this back. Of course. Naturally. There's no rumors a secret Old Republic movie has been now taking the now shelved Rogue Squadron place. There's been rumors about this. Now, would you want to see the Old Republic? Let's be honest. Where do we want to go next? The Old Republic, the beginning of the Jedi, the High Republic, or past the sequels? You could go far past the sequels with like Grogu, or you could just go right past the sequels and just go from where you left off with those sequel characters with Rey and Finn and Poe. What do we want to see next? Because honestly, I don't care. I just want Star Wars on the movie screen. An Old Republic would be epic, but it's unlikely. Now, The Force Awakens. Who was fired from this? This guy named Michael. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. So on October 30th of 2012, Disney officially acquired Lucasfilm and announced that a new slate of Star Wars movies beginning with Episode 7 would begin. And a group of collective minds was brought together and pieced together the next chapter of Star Wars, including this Toy Story 3 writer, Michael. Now, J.J. Abrams was brought on to direct. Why is this cutting off what I'm supposed to be reading? Whatever. So, Michael was fired after the Abrams team up because he was consulting with whatever. They just don't like him. Whatever. Rogue One. Sure. 1 guy fired. 2 guys fired from Rogue One. Solo. Another guy fired. Okay, now this one hurts the most. This one really hurts the most. This is The Rise of Skywalker. Colin Trevorrow was fired from The Rise of Skywalker. He wrote an entire script for The Rise of Skywalker. It was going to be called Duel of the Fates. I'm sure many of you know this. If you haven't read that script, I would very highly recommend you go read that script. Find it online. I'm sure it's on Reddit or somewhere online. But the Duel of the Fates would have been a way better third movie to the sequel trilogy. It would have been just by far a whole lot better. It would have been just like it would have been so much better. It would have had Rey, and it would have had Rey with a double-sided staff lightsaber. It would have had Coruscant, and Coruscant beaten down by the First Order. It would have had Finn. It would have had Finn actually doing something. It would have had Poe. It would have had General Hux actually doing something. It would have had the Knights of Ren actually doing something. It would have had Luke Skywalker's Force Ghost tormenting Ben Solo. It would have had no Palpatine, and it would have actually been good. But no, we fired him because why not? Why not? Boba Fett was supposed to get a film. Of course, kind of this was tanked because of the Solo movie. Now, the Solo movie doing so bad in the theaters was the reason behind the tanking or the getting rid of Boba Fett's movie and this trilogy we were supposed to get with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So honestly, would you have rather, let me put it this way, would you have rather have gotten an Obi-Wan Kenobi trilogy and a Boba Fett solo film or the Disney Plus shows that we got? It's pretty, honestly, the movie. So let's be real. A Boba Fett movie would have been a whole lot better than the show we got. Now, of course, the show we got had the Mandalorian, it had Luke Skywalker, it had Grogu, it had a ton of fun stuff. But it obviously would have been a completely different story if it was a movie. Now, the Obi-Wan Kenobi trilogy would have been a completely different story. The Obi-Wan Kenobi trilogy would be wild. It would have been completely different from what we got. It would, of course, end in a rematch of the century with Darth Vader, but there would be no Reva. There would be probably a kid version of Leia. I think that was always in the script, but it wouldn't have her being chased by bounty hunters, her running away. It wouldn't have the stupid cloak scene with Obi-Wan. If you think about the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, it just seemed kind of rushed at the same time as it all just seemed kind of fillery, but it was just so put together poorly because it was originally supposed to be a trilogy, and it was broken down into, 8 episodes? 8 episodes of a show. I'm getting sick of it, honestly. Disney, Lucasfilm, whatever you want to call it, Kathleen Kennedy, you got to start doing something, lady. You got to start doing something. And I understand that the Andor show is good. The Andor show is great. I understand that the Mandalorian is fantastic. I understand that a lot of people liked the Book of Boba Fett. A lot of people liked the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. But the lack of Star Wars movies, the lack of Star Wars in general. You go to a store nowadays, there's nothing on the shelves for Star Wars. Like, it is the perfect time to have Grogu merch. Like, this is from a third party. This isn't from Disney. There's perfect time to have merch, like, all over the place. I have a Mandalorian mug. I have, of course, all this stuff behind me. Funko Pops, a Boba Fett helmet, C-3PO's head. Most of this stuff isn't from Disney. They don't sell merchandise. It's ridiculous. It's wild. It's wild. Where Star Wars is a place where they can make billions off of merchandise, they seem to sell none. It's sad, honestly, because there's so many characters and new characters from the Andor show, from the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Like, for example, George Lucas would always make a character like the Ewoks or like R2-D2 or anybody to sell toys. Think about it. When Harrison Ford said he wanted Han Solo to be killed off in Return of the Jedi, he said, you know what doesn't sell? A dead Han Solo toy, so I'm not killing you off. Which makes sense. George Lucas is a smart guy. There's the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. You have Leia, and you have her droid Lola, which is the perfect candidate for a great toy for kids. Literally, it's handheld. It could be so cool if they wanted to put some money into it. No. The Grogu toys they sell are so trash, it's insane. I know I'm going a little crazy here talking about merchandising for Star Wars, but that's where we're at. Kathleen Kennedy has to go. And the only reason that Marvel or Pixar or any of Disney's other properties are doing better than Star Wars is because of their leadership. Look at Kevin Feige. That guy is destroying everybody on planet Earth because of his leadership. We need a Kevin Feige for Star Wars. Now, who is that Kevin Feige for Star Wars? We don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't know. Who do you guys think should take over the role of Kathleen Kennedy if Kathleen Kennedy, in fact, gets fired? Because I just don't know. I don't. Do you think Jon Favreau would even want to do that role? Because Jon Favreau would be an ideal candidate. Obviously, he has his experiences with Marvel and with Kevin Feige that he could bring over to Star Wars. But does he even want that role? Think about all the crap that Kathleen Kennedy has gotten, and even from me in these last 32 minutes. And does he want all that crap? If he does a bad job, does he want that? I don't think he'll do a bad job. I think anybody with literally anybody put in a scarecrow. I'm telling you, put in a scarecrow and it would do better than Kathleen Kennedy. Anybody, literally anybody on planet Earth could say, John and Dave, go make this. John and Dave, go make this. So who do we want to do that? Who do you want in charge of Lucasfilm? Because Kathleen is going to be gone by this time next year. I can all but guarantee it. I will bet you guys, I will give away a free lightsaber this time next year. Remind me, November 29th of 2023, I will give away a brand new, I don't even know, Galaxy's Edge lightsaber, any lightsaber you guys want. I will give away a free lightsaber if Kathleen Kennedy is still here in a year from now. That's the deal. That's the deal. Shake on it. Boom. That's it. Boom. That's the deal. And who do we want to replace Kathleen Kennedy? That can be your deal. I don't care. Anybody. Literally anybody. Now, there is one crazy other news story that we have to talk about. And that is the fact that... Oops. Whoa, what happened? Okay, yeah, and that is the fact that many people believe that George Lucas himself could be returning to Star Wars. Now, George Lucas, of course, has indicated throughout the last 10 years that he hates what Disney is doing to his baby. He hates what they're doing to Star Wars. He absolutely hates it. But that doesn't mean that he won't come back. Money talks, and I mean a lot of money can talk. Now, Bob Iger has returned, and Bob Iger is the guy who has his connections with George Lucas. Now, that connections, money, all that stuff, would George Lucas even want to come back? I'm pretty sure George Lucas, how old is George Lucas at this point? Now, of course, age doesn't really mean much, but it kind of does. George Lucas. George Lucas is 78 years old. So does 78-year-old George Lucas want to come in, take Kathleen's role, and fix Star Wars for the next 5-10 years or whatever they want to give him a deal for, and then retire again, knowing that Star Wars is in a better place? Or does he want to just continue to see Star Wars be destroyed by Disney? Like, do you think that George Lucas would actually come back? For real. Even if you offered this guy like $1 billion, more stock options, $100 million, whatever you want to offer him, do you think any amount of money in the world would bring this guy back? Because he's seen what they've done to it. He doesn't like it. Do you think maybe just out of his own insanity, he would want to come back and fix the problems that Disney made? And do you think he would? Do you think he would retcon the sequel trilogy? Do you think George Lucas would retcon the sequel trilogy? Now, I released a video yesterday, about the sequel trilogy. Now, it was how I could fix the sequel trilogy just doing one thing, one simple thing, and that would be turning Rey to the dark side. Now, Darkseid Rey was rumored for a while there going into the Rise of Skywalker. A lot of people wanted to see Rey turn to the dark side and it stay that way. By the end of the movie, she was still on the dark side, and she became the new bad guy for a 10, 11, 12 trilogy. Now, would you want to actually see that, Rey being a bad guy? Because, let's be real, and a lot of people said this in the comments of that video, that's what happened. Palpatine said, "Strike me down, and I will go into you and give you all my power, and you'll be all the Sith." Right? And what happens at the end of the Rise of Skywalker? She strikes Palpatine down. And I know it's a weird thing where like he just like dissolves into thin air, but what if he just went into Rey? And what if the next trilogy or the next movie, whatever, sequel movie, I know, we're talking sequels, I guess. What if the next movie is Rey being a Sith Lord, or just like dealing with the dark side inside of her? Like she becomes evil and like maybe a Jedi version of Finn in the best pilot in the galaxy in Poe Dameron, and somehow, some way they bring back Ben Solo, because you know Ben Solo's coming back. Do you think Ben Solo's coming back? For real. Do you think Ben Solo is ever going to be back in Star Wars? Do you think they'll take the character of Kylo Ren and just boot him to the curb? I know he died. I know he disappeared, blah, 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 blah. But the sequels did a lot more crazier things than just bringing back someone from the dead. Come on. We've seen Disney Star Wars do some crazy stuff. Bringing Ben Solo back from the dead does not seem that crazy. Of course, there is the world between worlds, how Ahsoka Tano came back from the dead. But is it even possible for Ben Solo to come back? That's the real question. Do you want Ben Solo to come back? Because if you're going to have a sequel trilogy, a 10, 11, 12, is it even worth it without the best character from the sequel trilogy? I think, honestly, if you took a poll right now, or ever, Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, is everybody's fan favorite character from the sequel trilogy, right? So if you were to make more content with sequel characters, how could you do it without the best character? Anybody? No? Honestly, I've come around to it. If there was a dark side Rey, like a full-on red lightsaber, like lightning coming out of her fingers Rey, in a sequel trilogy, with Ben Solo, Jedi Finn, Poe Dameron, Force Ghost Luke Skywalker, Force Ghost Leia, all fighting against Rey, I would go watch that. I would go watch that in a heartbeat. And you put the right writers behind it, i.e. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, then everybody's going to go watch this. I mean, you could add The Mandalorian to it. You could add Grogu to it. You could add everybody to it because it would be such a hit and it would be the perfect spot to go. Because I've always said this, and many people say this now, the sequels were one bad year. 1 year. About a year and a half. But one bad year. From the beginning of The Force Awakens to the end of The Rise of Skywalker, it's about a year and a half. So Han Solo dies. Luke Skywalker dies. Leia dies. All kind of in the same year. Pretty much. So, with that being said, there's a ton of stuff going on around the galaxy in that year, i.e. Grogu, Din Djarin. We don't know where they're at. Ahsoka Tano even. We don't know if she's dead or not. Maybe even Thrawn, Ezra, the big baddies. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know where they're at. We don't know what they're doing. They're not involved with the sequel trilogy at all. So maybe post-sequel trilogy, you still have the character of Din Djarin, of Ahsoka Tano, of Grogu, just a little bit older. And they would be more involved with what's going on in the galaxy. Think about it. You don't see Mandalore at all in the sequel trilogy. You don't see a single Mandalorian, actually, in the sequel trilogy. So you don't see Mandalore. You don't know what's going on Mandalore. And what is the Mandalorian about? Mandalore. The season 3 especially is going to be going back to Mandalore and probably rebuilding it back to its former glory, because we know that the Empire comes in and destroys Mandalore during the time of the Empire, during the siege. What is it called? The Night of a Million Tears or something? What's the Siege of Mandalore? Not the Siege of Mandalore. What's when the Empire comes and destroys Mandalore? Something about tears. Whatever. But we know that Season 3 of The Mandalorian is likely to bring back Mandalore. But Mandalore doesn't exist in the sequel trilogy. It's nowhere. You don't see a single Mandalorian. You don't see any hints towards Mandalore. So maybe that's where John and Dave are going with this. Maybe this whole entire Mando universe is to negate the sequel trilogy, is to show that there's other stories going on during the time of the sequel trilogy, like on Mandalore with the Mandalorian and Grogu, of course. Grogu is a main character of Star Wars now. There's no denying it. He's on everybody's shirt. Look down. He's on your shirt. I can guarantee it. And and he's a main character of Star Wars now. So him not being in the sequel trilogy either leads us to believe that A, he is dead, which would suck, or he is just not around at that time. He's not with Finn. He's not with Leia. He's not with Luke. He's just chilling somewhere else in the galaxy. Maybe Mandalore. I don't know. I don't know. You guys tell me, because I honestly, I don't know. I don't know one single thing because I'm stupid. Just kidding. You're stupid. Okay. One more. And I've said this a million times, one more Star Wars story, because I just saw this pop up on my screen. And let me refresh real quick. Yeah, I just saw this pop up on my screen. So, of course, we saw... we saw me talk about Star Wars movies for like 43 minutes now. Star Wars movies, i.e. the lack of Star Wars movies. We haven't had a Star Wars movie for 3 years. And now it's probably going to be 3 more until we get one, because if you guys are unfamiliar, this year we get an Avatar movie. Next year we were supposed to get a Star Wars movie. The year after, an Avatar movie. The year after, a Star Wars movie. Star Wars and Avatar are supposed to be going back and forth. I don't know how or why they're making so many Avatar movies, because that movie was good, sure, but making 4 more of them is never a good idea, but they want money. So, whatever. But the next Star Wars movie. Now, this is very, very important. The next Star Wars movie rumored to start film prep sooner than expected. And I mean sooner than expected. We're talking next April. So, the next Star Wars movie might be starting up soon. Now, how soon is soon? Bespin Bulletin, a great source coming from them. As soon as April or May. Now, this is just pre-production. If you don't know the steps of a movie, obviously the script has been written by at least now, and they have to start making the sets or prepping production because they have to make the sets first before they film on the sets. Of course, you have to make the sets first. So they'll start doing that on April or May. So a lot of people seem to think that this would work perfectly with the Taika Waititi project. Now, we don't know what this is about. It's rumored to be the Old Republic, but we don't know yet. But this would fit perfectly with his project. Now, this says, I was in talks with some people at Pinewood Studios, and there's some evidence that they will be shooting a Star Wars movie. Beginning construction on the Star Wars movie will start around April to May. So if you think about it, it might actually be a good sign for Taika Waititi's project, because he said that he's been still writing this project, because how it sounds that it's going with Taika's project, it will be a movie that he'll be done with the script by December. Now, we're almost at December by now. That he'll be done with the script by December, and then Lucasfilm, then he'll give it to Lucasfilm, and then whatever happens around April and May will be the start of producing that movie. So it seems to me, and I don't know about you guys, but it seems to me that Taika, now if you don't know who Taika is, he's the guy who did Thor Ragnarok, he's the guy who did Thor Love and Thunder, he's the guy who did many episodes of The Mandalorian Season 1, and he plays the droid IG-88. Taika could be getting the next Star Wars film and could start production as soon as April or May, which means it won't come out until 2025. So it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting a Star Wars movie for the next 3 years, and we haven't gotten a Star Wars movie for 3 years, and 3 plus 3 is 7, of course. And so 6 years without a Star Wars movie is a long, long time. But you never know. Taika could throw one out of the park right now with an Old Republic movie. Blow everybody's socks off. Give us Darth Malakis, give us Darth Revan, give us all of the favorite characters from the Old Republic around the same time of a Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic remake. A canon remake for the Knights of the Old Republic video game. Now, would we want to see that? Would you guys want to see the Old Republic? Do you want to see that's where Star Wars is going to go, and do you want to see it go that way? Do you want to see the Old Republic be the next thing that Star Wars hits? Now, I'm sure they'll still do stuff in the Skywalker saga, of course, Mandalorian, Mando universe, post-sequel stuff, but you'll get the Old Republic alongside the Mandoverse and the post-sequel stuff. Is that what we want? Do you want a Taika Waititi movie? Because I know a lot of people aren't fans of him right now because of what he did with Thor Love and Thunder. I don't know if you guys saw that movie. I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was a pretty solid-ish movie. It wasn't one of the top-tier Marvel movies, of course, but it wasn't terrible. But a lot of people seem to be off the Taika bandwagon because of Thor Love and Thunder. Now, you guys tell me in the comments, what do we think? Taika, next Star Wars movie, yay, nay? Old Republic, yay, nay? What are we thinking? Yay or nay? Are you guys horses today? Yay, nay? I don't know. I honestly want to see Kevin Feige's movie, of course, but he's got his hands full over at Marvel. I obviously wanted to see Patty Jenkins' Rogue Squadron movie, but that is canned. The Damon Lindelof one is pretty exciting because The Watchmen, he did The Watchmen, was a fantastic show, and him coming in to do a Star Wars movie would be awesome. Not even gonna lie, even if it is a sequel movie, it would be awesome. But Taika being Old Republic would be legendary. I mean, if he knocks it out of the park with a Darth Revan or something, people would lose their minds, because Darth Revan is already a fan favorite character, and if they did him right in the movies, if they did him correctly in the movies, I'm sure many people will still complain, even if they do him perfectly. There's always the Star Wars haters that are going to complain. But even if they did him perfectly, they'll still complain. But Darth Revan's a fan favorite character, and I would love to see him on the movie screen. I mean, think about all the people who already have Revan's lightsaber. There's already a lightsaber design for the character. There's already a design for his mask. There's already a design for the character himself and a story arc for the character himself. All you have to do is copy and paste it, put it on a screen, and say good day, and put Taika Waititi directed at the end of the movie. I'll do it. If you want, I'll do it. I'd literally just give it to me. I'll do it. I don't know. What do you guys think? Tell me in the comments, of course. What do you want to see next from a Star Wars movie? Anything? Do you want to see Kathleen Kennedy fired. And what did you think of the Andor show as a whole? Season 1 as a whole, rank it out of 10 in the comments below. I gave it an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10. Cinematically, fantastic. All the story arcs with each individual character, getting deep involved with each individual character. Of course, most of them died, but not all of them died. Bix survived. Brazo survived. That's pretty much it. Kino Loy dead. Oh, Vel survived. What did we think of the Andor show as a whole? And are you excited for Season 2? Are you actually excited for Season 2? Be honest. Are you actually excited for Season 2 of the Andor show? Tell me in the comments, of course. As always, I hope you have an amazing day. Smash like if you like this video. Don't forget to smash like. Have you smashed like? Smash like if you like this video. Hit subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified every time I post a video. And my pretty face will show up in the recommended feed of yours. All right, I'm going to get on out of here. Fantastic stream today. If I do say so myself. So I'm going to get on out of here. Look out for a video tomorrow. I'm doing a video on Maul having an apprentice, because Maul actually did have an apprentice. And spoiler alert, it's this lady right here. Bum bum. So watch out for that video, because Kiara's going ham in the comics right now. And if you aren't reading the comics, go watch this video, because it'll literally break down all of it. Because she is going ham, and Maul actually had an apprentice. Wild stuff. So watch out for that video. Watch out for all my videos, because of course, December 1st. Is it a Tuesday? Is it a Thursday? Is it a Friday? I don't even know. But December 1st is a Comic-Con with Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau coming on stage, giving us news for The Mandalorian. Expect a release date, probably February 22nd, and if not, another trailer, which would be epic, or a poster along with that. So, as I always say, may the Force be with you. Always.